Now, can you hear me now? Can anyone?
You're gonna go upstairs if you can't handle yourself. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? What about now? Can you hear me now? Okay, great. You can now hear me. So as I mentioned before, hello. This is Chandria Circles Back, and tonight and every Wednesday night, we connect with new managers to help them be successful in the workplace. Our goal is to answer any burning question from a new manager in an anonymous way to help them feel successful with managing their workplace problems. So, if you all can hear me, we're going to jump right in tonight. And our very special topic tonight, as Chandria circles back, is to talk about how does President-elect Trump's platform. So what we know is what he ran on. And so we're going to look at what his platform says and how does it impact the workforce. So I'm going to look at his platform with us tonight live, share with you what jobs may be impacted by his platform, and then we'll take a caller and talk more about an issue in the workplace. So I took a moment and went over Trump's 16-page platform where he outlined exactly what he wants to do in America. And what he outlined is what helped him win the presidency. So my goal tonight, and in a very apolitical way, so I'm not taking a stance on who should have won, why he won, why he did, why she didn't win. My goal tonight is not to focus on that. The goal is to focus on how his platform will impact the workforce. So, President-elect Trump has about 20 strong statements that pretty much sums up exactly what he wants to do to make America, in his words, great again. And so the statements that I'm going to connect with tonight are really focused on what will impact the workplace. So the first statement, that is number one, is seal the border and stop migrant invasion. Right, wrong, or indifferent, we're going to see stricter immigration laws. And so if you're here on an H-1 visa or any type of work visa, I imagine that that process will be a little bit more stricter and it's going to cause more enforced immigration laws. Okay. I'm looking at statement number 5, and it talks about manufacturing. Manufacturing showed up a whole lot in this platform. So manufacturing is going to be huge. If his platform is approved by the House and Congress, manufacturing is going to be huge. So it says that manufacturing will be a superpower. So like if you are in any industry from like human resources to marketing to labor tech, engineering, if you are near manufacturing, you can expect more roles to open up in manufacturing. Also, no tips, no taxes on tips. So the hospitality industry, from restaurants to hotels, workers may be more happy because there will not be any tax on tips. So I can see those two industries thriving as well. And I also see where there is going to be an uptick in military and veteran support. So veterans will be getting a lot of support from this administration. And the materials that Americas make for missile defense and iron defense will increase. So if you work on base, if you work with the Air Force Base in any way, any federal job that works on building things, you can expect an increase. Also, I think in his last presidency, he and his team came up with a rule where you didn't have to have a degree to work for the federal government. And I can also see that that rule will take effect. So there may be more opportunities to work for the federal government, and especially in the space where you're building military equipment. All right, so military shows up a lot here. So, like, if you want to go to the military, if you're thinking about the military, if America's morale and fighting for the United States is your thing, this may be the administration to really get connected with, because their goal is to really modernize the military. So I see more funding going into military families, veterans, home support, resources. The military is likely going to thrive in the next couple months. So I truly see that the military is going to take off in a very modern way. And so, yeah, so jobs that we can be sure about. So, manufacturing, America's going to be a superpower again when it comes to manufacturing, according to his current platform. Military, building military equipment is going to be another thing that's going to really pop up. You're going to see a lot of. I also see here, and I'm getting texts from people who are actually live with us. So it's funny. So sorry. But I also see where innovation is popping up a lot. So emerging industries. Emerging industries are industries that are not yet fully formed and developed that will be taking shape in America over the next four years. So AI, cyber security is going to be a big deal. Um, Crypto also will be a big deal. Those are considered emerging industries. And if you're in those industries, you may find opportunities as well. And I also want to say computer science, agriculture, those industries are going to take off as well, because there's going to be a lot of funding put towards commercial spacing, like commercial space. And so there's a chance that we're going to see more funding and resources going to computer science, technology, innovation. Also, there's a bill here, well, there's a statement here about clean air and energy. And so I see that if you're in those industries as well, they're going to take off. So according to Trump policies, there's going to be great opportunities for work in the United States. But I really want to make sure I stress manufacturing is one of the centered career opportunities. Another thing that I see is healthcare. So a part of his current plan, which is what he ran on, I'm not sure if it's going to happen, um, they're going to give more money so that the elders are actually able to stay at home. So home health care is going to take off. They're going to put funding into home health care to ensure that elderly people are taken care of. And so I can see that industry is also taking off. When it comes to higher education and teaching, the plans right now are not fully outlined in a way where I feel comfortable to share what's going to happen. But what I do strongly believe is that the federal government is going to deregulate states. So what that means is states will have more autonomy and more control over what happens in their state. And so right now, a lot of programs are funded by the federal government. And so states have to respond to what the federal government is asking them to do. It seems like in this new administration, states will now gain back control. So when it comes to workers' rights, when it comes to companies in a state, always think about where you live and when it comes to where you work, because I can see that the deregulation of like federal government, trumping what states want, ending. States will gain back a lot of control over a lot of different things. So anytime you're talking to someone and you're in one state and in another state, they can have totally different rules. Unless that company is international and that company that you're working for wants to streamline their rules. But most importantly, it's going to be left up to the states to decide jobs, careers, the workforce in that state, and even down to teaching. But I don't have enough information to give you my thoughts on what's going to happen with teachers in the Department of Education. That's a really big topic, and I really don't have enough information to truly give you a lot of thoughts around it. But from what I see, there's going to be a big push. Not sure it's going to get passed or not, but there's going to be a big push that states will individually own education and also workers' rights. So labor rights, OSHA, hour and wage, all of that will go back to each state. So that's what I see when it comes to President-elect Trump's platform. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm very apolitical on all of this, but I want you to know what's going to show up or likely to show up. There is a strong chance that child care benefits will be more generous and that there will be more support from tax cuts to resources for child care. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance talked a lot about child care in the election campaign. And so there may be a chance that child care will show up as well in a good way. I see that there will also be more funding for career development and training programs. So I see that if you're working in higher education, 2-year programs, you're going to thrive because there may be chances that the government will be giving more funding to those programs to support career development and job planning. The one thing I can say about teachers based on what his platform is sharing for now is that they will protect teachers. Not sure what that means from a state standpoint, but although there's a chance that Department of Education is going to be defunded or closed, there's also this strong chance that teachers will be regulated by the state. But in the platform, it says that they will be protected. So let's take your questions. As I mentioned, I'm only answering questions about the workforce, very apolitical topic. I see a lot of job creation happening in 2025 under President-elect Trump's administration, and a lot of jobs. So I see a question here that says, what do you think are some anticipated impacts of Trump's 2025 plan on federal or state funding programs aimed at workforce upskilling, vocational training? Okay, so upskilling is when you're currently in a job and the company pays for you to gain more skills in that role. So I see that based on his plans, there will be a lot of funding given towards workforce development, on career development, upskilling, reskilling. So reskilling is when you don't necessarily know the job function, but they're going to give funding to support you learning that function. So I see a lot of funding going towards that as well. So do you say marketing would thrive? Correct. I do think marketing will thrive because when it comes to manufacturing, emerging industries, healthcare, all of those industries need reputation and brand support. So I do see marketing still having a strong position in the workforce. So this is based on your current knowledge. Which job industries do you think? Still waiting on the rest of it. Did I miss some questions here? Let's see. Do you think will have the most impactful job growth? I think manufacturing will have the most impactful job growth. And right now in America, manufacturing has always been on the up and up. We have a call. We have a call coming in. Let me answer this question. Can you give them X hold for 1 second? Thank you. Manufacturing has been the bedrock of America. And right, wrong, or indifferent, we have noticed that manufacturers have shipped their whole shop internationally. But it seems like this campaign, this presidency is working to make America a superpower when it comes to manufacturing again. So I feel like manufacturing is going to show back up in a very big way. And one thing about manufacturing that I think people don't know is that there's so many roles in manufacturing. While labor is amazing and we really support the men and women and people who are actually building the product, you have accounting, you have HR, you have operations, you have supply chain, you have marketing, you have people who are actually creating, the product to be built. There's like 6 or 7 industries within one. So don't shy away from manufacturing, no matter what industry you're in, because there may be a role there for you. And I see that being one of the biggest job growth opportunities. Alongside emerging industries, I see commercial space taking off a lot, where computer science, engineering will thrive. But don't shy away from manufacturing. So many great opportunities there. Great question. All right, we have a caller? No caller? Did they hang up? Oh, goodness. They hung up. I lost my caller. All right, if you just called, so sorry, cut you off. I wanted to finish my statement here, but please call back if you just called. Please call back. Do you have any water? I need some water. Any more questions on the job market in 2025?
Call from unknown.
Okay, that's a question. Can I get some water? Okay. Hello, it's Coach Shan.
Hey, how you doing? This is Kate.
Hello. How are you?
I'm fine. How you doing?
Doing well. Thank you so much for calling in tonight. How can I help?
So I see you're talking about the Trump administration policies. I just wanted to kind of ask a couple of questions. I don't know if you have well-versed knowledge on it. As far as the tariffs go, what is your opinion on the tariffs and how that will help create job force or remove jobs from the country?
Tariffs. That's a really big question. So I will say that there will be, I would say a lot of negotiations around tariffs and products. It seems like from President-elect Trump's platform that the goal is to put more money in the pockets of like Americans. And so from farmers to like manufacturers to owners, they're going to work on the behalf of Americans to ensure that tariffs are created in a way to support them. So it seems like, and I can't be 100% sure, that there's opportunities to negotiate for more incentives and resources and money for Americans, and that there likely is a chance that we're not getting all that we can get as far as like farmers and the products that we give in an international way. So I think that's going to be positive for Americans, but I can't really sure. I think negotiations are going to really play a big part in that.
Okay. So with that being said, President Trump-elect is going to inherit a GDP that has been suffering and kind of fluctuating up and down the last couple of years. So how long do you think it would take to kind of fix or at least heal the economy to a place where we can see positive growth?
That's a great question. So you asked how long we think it's going to take to see positive growth. Honestly, from research, it seems that anything that a president like does in their during their term shows up in the next term. So although the first 180 days is what have HR leaders like concerned like what's going to happen, there's a chance we won't see the full benefit of President-elect Trump um, presidency until his presidency is over. We may see some big impacts in the 180 days, like the first 180 days, but the ones that are more sustainable, that takes a longer time, is usually after the election is over. After that season is over.
Okay. How do you feel about Elon Musk being attached to the Trump cabinet?
Look, you have some tough questions tonight. He asks, how do I feel about Elon Musk being attached to the Trump cabinet? Here's what I'm going to say in an apolitical way. What I'm going to say is Elon Musk is a son of family members who've made a huge impact on space, huge impact on the world when it comes to getting to space, when it comes to innovation and being a trailblazer. And I do believe because of that, he feels completely compelled to do the same thing. So I won't give a lot of feedback on my thoughts on Elon Musk being a part of the cabinet, but what I will say is that he is driven by family inheritance, family impact, to be impactful as well and to leave a legacy. And I see that showing up in him being a part of President-elect Trump's campaign.
Now, does that pairing with Vivek create positive influence, or does it create negative influence, or is it just a net neutral? We're not going to see any type of increase or loss with teaming him up with Vivek.
I think we're going to see a lot of innovation, right? And so what innovation means to me, you and others will differ, but we will see innovation. And depending on our tolerance for innovation, that's how we'll feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you.
I feel like our tolerance for innovation is what's going to decide how we feel about what they do in that department or division.
All right. So, speaking of the cabinet, he made a lot of. I would say he made a lot of good decisions with the director of intelligence, and I would even say the AG would be a pretty good choice. I mean, he needs a firecracker with the AG. How do you feel about Marco Rubio being secretary, or trying to be appointed to Secretary of State? I do think that was the gap on his part, just because Rubio is more of a bootlicker more than anything else. I don't think he has any type of positive attachments to anything. I think he's more of a yes man, and I don't think Trump needs that this time around as he did the first time around.
You know, you're throwing some really hard balls tonight, and I really appreciate them, which is helping me to stay focused. But what I will say, I can't speak to that. I can't speak to that because a lot of my clients work in a very nonpartisan way. And so I really have to stay focused and be completely neutral about my thoughts on any cabinet picks. And so I appreciate the question, but I can't really respond to that question.
You know, no answer is an answer. But I mean, I respect it though. So I guess
You have one more question. You have one more question, and you're done.
I got you. That's fine. So, you know, in Trump's plan, the Department of Education is supposed to get folded, right? That's pretty much the echoing statement that's kind of been more proven to be true than not.
Mm-hmm.
With the Department of Education being folded, do you see America going back to its glory days in the early 2000s when we were considered a superpower and we were number one in reading, math, and STEM subjects, or do you see more of a decrease? Because I mean, it's a twofold question more so because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, so I do see there's going to be a huge difference depending on where you're at. Like in more industrialized cities like New York or California, you may see a more targeted education, but in the bottom 12 states, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, you may see more issues.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the fact that the states are running it. A lot of the states are corrupt in terms of their appointed trustees. So
Mm-hmm.
how does that look on the holistic side of things?
So that's a great question. So as you mentioned, it seems like if the Department of Education is defunded and closed, first that may take a lot of work to actually happen because it came up before in his presidency a couple of years ago. So the fact that it may be really hard to actually close down in the priorities of his cabinet, I would watch that closely to see if it actually really happens. That's my first statement. Second thought is I want to be optimistic and think that the governors of each state will work aggressively to ensure that they are exceptional in their standards, taking care of their teachers, that their curriculum is solid, and that we can actually compete. I don't want to get into the politics behind the thoughts of like, should we or should we not close down the Department of Education? But I want to feel like governors are going to stand up to the call to be thoughtful and intentional about their educational systems in their states and want to compete so that America is climbing when it comes to education.
That makes sense.
That's what I want. That's what I want to think. And I also think like I said, when it comes to companies, a lot of the rules that were regulated by the federal government is likely going to be turned back into the hands of the state. So each state will be governing their own area when it comes to like meal breaks and salaries and all those things. And companies in those states will be working with the state government to make decisions. And so to me, it leaves this ultimatum of like, are you a good company or not? We'll see that. There won't be any questions about if this is a good company because no one will be regulating this company in certain fashions. Like there will be certain things that are still regulated, but companies will have to really put their money where their mouth is. They're going to have to show up and say, I'm a good company. Because it seems like if what I'm reading is correct and researchers and experts are correct, states will have a lot more autonomy on what happens with companies in their state. And depending on the state you're in, that's going to change the rules and the laws. But that company also has a say so. They can say, we're going to stand up and be people-centered or we're not. And that's something they have to decide. Like, I know in the past, there was this like heat stress rule. So as an example, if you worked in manufacturing or a hospitality or like restaurant industry, and it was too hot. There was a federal government like law that says like over a certain degree that companies are required to give rest and like cooling stations and like water, whether it was hot or cold. Well, in California was the first state to kind of like initiate that. Federal government follow suit. Um, I'm not sure if that law will be in effect anymore. It may go back to the states. So states will have to decide, which makes the company decide, which ultimately we'll get to see which companies are the best places to truly work.
Okay. So do you see a lot of companies basically getting a ton of like violations due to the fact that now the states are in charge and they can lobby the state government to kind of sweep under the door? Because now lobbying will go from a federal level to a state level.
Right?
So do you feel like the lobbyists now have a better advantage because now they can really pinpoint certain states to buy into their hand instead of convincing the whole government to buy into their hand?
That's a really great question. I cannot respond to that in a professional way as an executive consultant to a lot of companies who are going to make these decisions. But I will say that companies who are really people centered will have a competitive advantage, and we'll get a chance to see how that makes a huge impact and if it does or not. But you're throwing some great questions at me, I'll tell you, I promise. Those are some excellent questions. But as an executive consultant that like, yes, as an executive consultant that like work with Fortune 100 companies that have like stock and like shareholders, I have to be really responsible with how I show up on any media platform. And so you threw great questions, but something I just could not respond to because of the clients that I support.
So can you answer this question? I mean, like I said, I guess we'll try to make it short. In your professional opinion, do you feel that unions will be under attack?
You know I can't answer that question. You know I can't answer that question.
Okay. So let me word it. Let me word it in a way that kind of it gives you plausible deniability. Do you feel over the next 4 years there will be a labor issue of any kind?
I believe that all current labor laws will be looked at aggressively in the new president-elect's cabinet, and there may be changes from every angle, from the harassment to OSHA's safety to hour wage to Department of Labor. I believe that there may be looked at aggressively, and the cabinet may make some decisions.
Okay, that's a fair non-answer.
Well, look, thank you so much for calling in tonight and to make this conversation super fruitful. As I mentioned, I'm so sorry that I can't answer all of your questions, but hopefully I was able to give you some thoughts on what will happen, and you find thoughts about how you can move forward as a professional in America.
Yeah, I do appreciate your answers, and I appreciate everything you're doing with this platform.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time tonight.
All right, you have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, that was tough. Okay. Those were some really great questions, but that was tough because I totally cannot answer all the things that he asked. So I want to make sure that I'm not missing questions in the chat here. So, will the cost of tariffs affect consumer prices though? There's a likely chance that it will. There's a chance that the tariffs can affect consumer prices. I'm not saying in a positive or negative way, but there's a strong chance that it will affect. hour as consumer prices. And it seems like it is the administration's goal to keep those prices lower. All right. What are your thoughts? Any more questions? I need some water after that. Any more questions? Any more questions for me? Tech, do you have any questions? No? Okay, let me just circle back here. The workforce under President-elect Trump's administration is likely to thrive. There are signs based on what he ran on. I can't give you definite answers here, but there are signs that manufacturing will be centered. And as I mentioned, there's about 6 or 7 industries that can benefit from that. Emerging industries from crypto to AI to commercial space will also shine. Healthcare, there's some rules, some laws that are going to possibly be governed around healthcare, which I can see healthcare still having a huge role in the economy. And so honestly, I don't see any strong concerns. I know my teachers are extremely worried. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the Department of Defense. I can't speak to it in a way that I feel comfortable with on this platform. But what I do see is that there's a chance that states will now have more governance over what happens in their state, from education to regulations for labor, whatever you want to think about, healthcare, abortion. I talk about that, but all the things, states will have more autonomy. So know where you live, know your governor, know your state reps, lean into that. Midterms are in 2 years. I think everything's gonna be okay. Okay. No matter which side you're on, things are gonna be okay when it comes to workers. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I'm hopeful I answered a lot of great questions for you. If you have some more, please send me an email. But I think we'll be okay. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Chandria Circles Back tonight. And I hope to connect with each of you soon. Thank you.